perpetrator should be brought to book, and every victim should be should get access to justice, and their story has to be told. The South African Police Service is an arm of the government that does not rest when it comes to investigating the abuse of women and children suffer at the hands of criminals. Sometimes these perpetrators being their husbands, their fathers, boyfriends, family members, and family friends. It is in its commitment to serve and protect the vulnerable, SABC had prioritized crime reported against women and children. This commitment starts at a police station, where at every station a victim-friendly facility is established. This is to ensure that a victim is in comfortable and secluded environment when reporting a crime. Female victims are attended by females, and in every case a victim is offered professional psychological counseling. To give further impetus to this commitment, a multidisciplinary integrated approach together with the Department of Social Development, National Prosecuting Authority, the Department of Justice, and civil society has been adopted. Furthermore, the SABC re-established the Family Violence, Child Protection and Sexual Offences units on the 1st of June 2010. Since then, the capacity and the capabilities of these units have grown exponentially. We have since established 185 units countrywide with specific focus on family violence, child protection, sexual offences. The FCS units includes sections of serial and electronic investigations responsible for the efficient investigation of crime that is perpetrated by identified serial offenders and electronic crime such as child pornography. Forensic or social work services is responsible for the rendering for forensic social work support while focusing on specialized investigations. This section was established for the purpose of ensuring that crimes against women and children are effectively combated by means of both proactive and active approaches, as well as through the multidisciplinary approach, while ensuring that the victims are treated with utmost sensitivity. The FCS units further focuses on the conducting of quality investigation and specializes in investigating crimes such as sexual offenses, which include rape, attempted rape, sexual assault, cases of grievous bodily harm, murders, the illegal removal of persons referred to as abduction, kidnapping of children, missing children, child neglect, child abandonment, and child trafficking. This unit also investigates the serial offenders like serial rapists, and also deal with crimes facilities by the electronic media like child pornography. The social workers within these units practicing forensic social work assist the FCS investigating officers in the investigation of child abuse cases. The forensic assessment of the process, which deals with the cases of alleged child abuse, referred to investigating officers and the judiciary system, provides statements and scientifically based court reports in order to assist the investigation and legal processes, thereby rendering experts' testimony in criminal court matters. The FCS is one of the most dedicated units in the organization, which is why several members of the unit have been awarded National Commissioner's Special Award, an award presented to selfless men and women who continue to display devotion to service. During the period from the 1st of July to 31st December 2018, the courts sentenced a total of 1,357 convicts and gave them 371 life sentences and over 4,629 years imprisonment, and in 838 cases. This includes 6 serial rapists who were sentenced to a combined life sentence or sentences and more than 800 years imprisonment. Government welcomes the President's move to capacitate the police and the court system to support the survivors of gender-based violence, as mentioned in his sonnet. All South Africans are urged to cooperate with the law enforcement agencies to identify criminals who continue to commit heinous crimes in our communities, taking advantage of the elderly, women, and children. I won't translate that. Any information can be channeled through the SABC Crime Stop number, which is 086 00 10 111. Callers may remain anonymous, and all information will be treated with the strictest confidence. In 2019, the Presidency signed the Declaration on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide with various civil society formations and has directed that urgent attention be given to its implementation, particularly on immediate measures around support to victims and access to shelters and places of safety. Following the intensive consultation and engagements, we are working towards the establishment of Gender-Based Violence and Femicide Council and a national strategy plan that will guide all of us wherever we are and in our efforts to eradicate this national scourge. In the morning, all of us, in the morning, all of the women killed, the department is declaring, the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, declaring September the 8th, 2019, a national moment of silence, prayer, and encourage all men to speak against women and girls and must not be seen only as victims, but as agents of change. and equal partners in ending discrimination and violence. To end violence against women and girls, we must educate men and women and change gender stereotypes, attitudes, beliefs that condone violence and harmful construction of masculinity. We must also promote gender equitable norms and behaviors and women's participation in decision-making bodies in government. Efforts to prevent gender-based violence must be accelerated along with increased access to justice, including reparations and access to comprehensive services, the empowerment of women and girls, and eradication of stigmatizing of survivors. This requires the adoption of approaches at different levels and engaging all segments of our society, including dedicated work with men and boys. We furthermore call upon the nation to collectively address the scourge of gender-based violence and femicide. Action can be louder if we stand together by advocating for change in our environment. In 2019, the presidency signed Declaration on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide with various civil society formations and has directed that urgent attention be given to its implementation, particularly on immediate measures around support to victims and access to shelters and places of safety. Following intensive consultations and engagements, we are working towards establishment of a gender-based violence and femicide council and national strategic plan that will guide us, all of us, wherever we are, in our efforts to eradicate this national scourge. The Ministry of Justice and Correctional Services has directed the Director General of Justice and Correctional Development to immediately convene the intersectoral committee in terms of Section 63 of the sexual offences. The committee is chaired by the National Commissioner of Police Services, National Commissioner of Correctional Services, Director General of Social Development, Director General of Health, and the National Director of Public Prosecutions. In terms of the Section 63 of the sexual offences, and this committee is responsible for ensuring that the criminal justice system takes a victim-centric approach to sexual offences. This includes, but not limited to, increasing the footprint of sexual offences courts across the country, amending the criminal procedure to ensure that persons who allege that they are sexually violated are not re-violated. This committee will provide a briefing on what is being done to ensure that an efficient victim-centered response is implemented. We collectively are calling for all service delivery points within the value chain of the criminal justice system to exhibit speed, sensitivity, and responsive attitude to reduce and untimely eradicate secondary victimization. We jointly call upon our officials to ensure that they treat victims with respect and refrain from any form of victim blaming. The sketch calls for the collective participation of all government agencies and the community organizations to enhance our interventions insofar as gender-based violence is concerned. In mourning for all women killed, the department is declaring, as I said earlier on, Sunday as a day of us just reflecting whether it's indeed this what freedom we wanted. We can do it in whatever form, but interdenominational, those who go to whichever form of religious beliefs they go to, get together and make sure that this indeed comes to an end. Parliament has started its process today. Government is making itself available, but work starts here. Kwanele, we have had enough. We are sick and tired of hearing how women get maimed and killed in their homes, in their churches, and by post office, as they walk along the streets. Women, through human rights, should feel that they're equal to all South Africa and that they will stay protected in their motherland. Thank you, Minister. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Colleagues, we're now opening for questions. I see April's hand split it up. We'll take 5 questions first row, and then second row we'll take another row of questions. Abra, Ronald, and Kate. In that order, please.
Ministers, good evening. I'm Abra Barbia of the SABC. I don't know if it was a tweet from the presidency or from government yesterday or earlier today, basically condemning what has been going on. And that tweet received lots of critique from the public, saying it was really tone deaf to what is actually going on. And again, in this statement, yes, victim support is extremely important, but that is not where the fight starts. The fight starts way before we become victims. And I'm not hearing enough about exactly how we're going to start tackling this problem. What is the message we are sending to our men out there? The other issue, yes, you are speaking about the over 4,629 years imprisonment in so many cases. I know the ANC stance on the death penalty. A political party today again said we need to have another discussion about the death penalty. Again, based on social media, this is the same thing that citizens largely are calling for. And also, my third question, if I may, has government ever considered doing some kind of research on what exactly the problem is in our country? Have you had psychologists, have you had psychiatrists sit down and actually try to figure out? Because the question, I think, we've got nothing more to say and to ask other than why. And I am emotional about this, and I think it's something we should all be emotional about. So these are my questions.
Minister Ronald Masimba from ENCA. My question is based on one of the victims, a boxer who hails from East London. Now, she was killed by a man that she allegedly had a protection order against. And it seems to be something of an oversight when so many of these victims come out and say that they fear for their lives, but our justice system keeps letting them down. How can we do better in terms of this?
Yeah, thanks very much. Kay Davis, Eyewitness News. I must say that I've also been incredibly disappointed with government's response to this burning issue. During the debate in the House this afternoon, we heard very little from government about any action whatsoever. And I felt like some of the MPs who were simply saying every year we come and we debate the same thing, we say the same things. Names are listed of that gruesome body count that you referred to, Minister. And we you know, and people are simply told, well, the same things get said again. Yes, we've got the machinery. Yes, we're working. But I think that it's really time for something a little bit more strongly to be said. So let me ask the following question. Is the government prepared to entertain a referendum on the return of the death penalty for crimes of serious violence against women? Is the government prepared to entertain any amendments to legislation like the Criminal Procedure Act in terms of heightening the or raising or more harsh sentences? What does the government say about the fact that its prisons are essentially meant to rehabilitate people who go into them? And yes, we have sentenced a lot of people to life. They're not going to come out. Should they come out, what do you think the kind of person is that you think that they will be, having been brutalized, if you like, in prison, and the chances of their committing yet another heinous crime? The post office employee who murdered Uyinene it turns out, has a previous conviction. What are you saying about that failure in a state-owned company's employment procedures, that something as basic as a previous conviction was not picked up? I'm going to leave it there. Thank you.
Minister Sabis Jones from Heart FM. Firstly, this new committee, who will be involved? When are we establishing it? What kind of powers will they have? Please give us more details on that. The issue of these special sexual offences courts, we know that this was something that was implemented years ago, and there's been a year-on-year delay in the rollout of those courts. How are we going to address that? And then lastly, the question of police in particular abusing their power when it comes to adding to this issue of gender-based violence, whether it's raping of sex workers, whether it's abusing their spouses. How are we working with the Independent Investigative Directorate in particular to bring these officers to justice?
Shana from News from Africa. Most of the questions have been covered by my colleagues, but I know you mentioned that the police ministry couldn't make it today, but what did they add, or what do they have to add in coming up with solutions and in that practical solutions? Because society is now asking what can be done with the police to beef up security or to even equip some of the police officers at police stations to be able to deal with some of these cases when rape victims go to police stations. Thank you.
Thank you, colleague. Ministers, we start with Minister Lamula, and then we'll go to DM in Pretoria. DM is with us, and then Minister Mante will close.
I don't know how does this thing work. Thank you for the technological intervention. I think with regard to the tweet from the presidency, there is acknowledgement that it was improperly worded, and we have to apologize for its insensitivity. The issues and the crime of gender-based violence, men have to take a stand, and we have a responsibility to ensure that women feel safe, children feel safe, and we call for all South African men to do their own self-introspection and play their role to ensure that our women in our society, they don't only feel safe, they feel loved, they also feel the care of all of us. And with regard to the victim-centric program, as Crispin has said as we started, that and the minister, is to ensure that the entire criminal justice cluster is sensitive towards the victims. and the victims feels that when they go through our processes, their matters are handled with the care that it deserves. With regard to research, I think I'm not sure if we've done any. Maybe I will ask my colleague here. It could be from the Women's Ministry if there's any research in this regard. The boxer that was killed, and there was a protection order. The protection order it has got requirements that a person should not be or must never be next to this person, certain kilometers and so forth. And I think it was very unfortunate that there was some kind of contact. I think the police investigation will further reveal whether this was also in breach of some of the factors, but it should be condemned because a protection order should be something that should act as a deterrent to men. And we have called upon our systems in the criminal justice cluster to be very harsh where protection orders or any violation of women has happened. And the NPA, including through its processes and the judicial processes, have been sensitized even from our side. And the NPA does take these matters very serious when they are brought to them. And when you look at the stats of their conviction, it also shows the work that they are doing, which is obviously not enough. They've got a 74% conviction rate on these matters. But it's not enough. I think it needs more of a societal work. It needs us men in particular to be more sensitive and be responsive to the calls of the nation, because only our NPA and the judiciary may not be able to do all the. We need men to really do their part, but whether we are open to we're open to a referendum or not. I think at this stage, I can't really say we are open or not open. It's something that we can still take further for discussion. We have agreed with my colleague to take a discussion tomorrow at Cabinet on some of the issues that might need further deliberations and approval, which myself and her can't really approve. I think from the Cabinet discussions tomorrow, Minister Mthembu will further elaborate on some of the substantive issues. The CPA amendment and what will the committee that we have said must sit to do is its role is to look into the day-to-day implementation of the Criminal Procedure Act. That despite the fact that we have the Act, on a day-to-day basis are the issues that have been put into the legislation, the Sexual Offences Act, happening or being done. For example, one of the issues that was raised recently, it was in some of the police stations, the non-availability of the rape kit. And I know the police minister has moved across the country, and the committee has now ensured that the rape kit is everywhere in the police station. So these things can be picked up through that process of the technical committee. And we are open, as we've said, to amendments to the CPAs, the Criminal Procedure Act, that will ensure that it's effective, it's responsive, it enables us to prevent the scourge. With regard to rehabilitation in our facilities, we do a lot of rehabilitation. We also implement various measures that relates to various aspects that assess the offenders. And when we deal with the cases of even of parole for people who committed sexual offences, we deal with them in a very strictest manner. It's not easy to get a parole unless there is a clear, beyond reasonable doubt, convincing in this regard. It's not an easy one to get through our processes. The Special Sexual Offences Court, in terms of the processes, we have I think about 92 of the sexual offences code. In the current financial year, we are going to complete building, I think, about 11 of them. And next week, we will open one in Shibasa in Venda. So there is some progress in that regard. But issues of infrastructure are always long-term projects. But there is progress. You will know that the president also opened one, I think in May or April in Boise, which is a newly built sexual offences court. The abuse of power by police with regard to women who are working in the industry. We must condemn any form of abuse of power, either by police or any state official or anyone, because the responsibilities that were given are not meant to be used for any sexual favors. Our responsibility are meant to attend to what the Constitution expects us to do, and the police must act in line with that, with what the Police Act expect them to do. Thank you.
Can we go to Victoria DM? Do you have any remarks?
Thank you very much, and good evening to ministers and members of the media. Allow me to just add to what the ministers have said, but also try and respond to some of the questions that have been asked. Firstly, would like to also, as the Department of Social Development, pass our condolences to the families of the victims of gender-based violence across the country, to those that have made the media and those that have not made the media. Secondly, I would like to answer straight to the questions in terms of what government is doing. We've just finalized consultations of the Victim Support Services Bill, which will be going to Cabinet in a week or so. And in that, we did an audit of our own services, but also the quality of the service itself. So we will be improving on the services that we currently provide, which is the 3 levels of the shelters in terms of the White Door Centers of Hope that are community-based, as well as the Kuseleka centers that have a bit of higher security, and the secure centers, especially that responds to issues around women that have been trafficked and survivors of gender-based violence. We have activated our National Emergency Response Team that actually provides the support to victims of gender-based violence, and that is a national team constituted by our highly specialized trauma social workers as well as psychologists. And as we come across the cases through our command center line, which I want to remind South Africans that we do run a command center line that is very efficient and effective, 0800 GBV. And we have a Please Call Me line, which is *120 *7867#, and you can send an SMS to the department that says help to 31531. And as well as we extend the service to deaf people who are able to video and Skype, and we call back all our victims, including the perpetrators. We're rolling out, and the South Africa would have seen our campaign where we are working with men and boys in creating a better South Africa, but also in ensuring that men are able to hold each other accountable. Just on Sunday and Saturday, we had the Boys Assembly and the District Men's Parliament that we are rolling out, and on a district-based model. All of this is intended to say enough is enough. One of the questions said, what message are we sending and what are we saying that's different? It's very important that we always remind each other that government can never do this alone, especially because the domestic violence happens in the spaces that are supposed to be safe, firstly our homes. And in that regard, today we launched hashtag End the Domestic Silence, and partnership with Unilever and people opposing women abuse. And it's some of the work that the Department of Social Development is doing to ensure that we are able to ask the right questions. We have a program where we are training traditional leadership, all 8,750 of them, village by village, because what we realized is that if we can get them to also be agents of change in terms of holding them accountable, we will be able to make the necessary progress. We will be hosting a conference to actually register and uphold a lot of the shelters that we have, which is coming up, and I thought I needed to put it out there. And yes, we are doing ongoing research, and I can give out some new information that we have discovered. The real connection between cancer, breast, cervical, prostate, and testicular cancer, and the big contribution that these cancers are actually making in the space of gender-based violence. We know that drugs and alcohol continue to contribute a very big increase. So we actually starting as a department to hold industry accountable, but not just only accountable, but also we engage with them to come up with solutions in terms of this. We've increased our bed capacity in terms of rehabilitation. The last question that I want to answer is also in terms of the justice system. The Minister of Justice has responded, but I just want to add and to remind us that South Africa is one of the countries that have the sex worker strategy that we've launched that has different elements, and amongst the elements that the sex worker strategy has is how the police are supposed to engage with sex workers in South Africa. Even though we have not reached the level of decriminalizing sex work, but the acknowledgement of police abuse are being taken care of, and we really would like members of the media to continue to engage us on that particular aspect. The employment procedures, yes, one of the aspects that I think is important that we educate each other is that at the moment the law requires vetting for people that are going to work with children. Not necessarily the general vetting for every public servant. And the taking note of what has happened in the post office, and the post office being a service provider to our grant recipients as the Department of Social Development, which then means a lot of our young women will be exposed to such services. We will be taking that on a serious review, because it is something that says to us, it's not a matter that we can just ignore. Let me conclude by saying that the criminal justice system, and let's talk about the issuing of the court orders. At the end of the day, it is a paper that a police officer delivers to a man who doesn't care, who's not interested, and who is not even going to respect the law. And the painful part about the whole thing that I think is important that we at the department are actually beginning to struggle with is how best can we ensure that we have a victim-based responsive system, so that we are able to track on real time women who have these orders, and on real time how can they be protected better without them leaving their home. So we say we are hard at work. It remains a challenge. We have a lot of services, and we really want to call on South Africa to say, let's think together and let's do things differently, and let's definitely get off the metro rail train, get on the how train on this matter. Thank you so much.
Thank you, dear. For your interesting analogy as well at the end there. For second row, sorry, just before the second row, Minister, is there anything that you'd like to add from the responses that we had so far?
Well, not really a response, but a call that with a situation like this, where we all feel and agree that we've reached a national emergency, and thus that there is no disagreement between us that this GBV femicide should stop, and should stop now. Just so happened that we are in different professions. You are sitting on the other side of the table and we are sitting here, but we agree. So sometimes when you have common cause for nation building, we all don't feel like it's exciting, because we like to find that there's a bit of disagreement. We disagree in this case, and we'll accept debates on how to close down this carnage once and for all. One sector of the population will say, take this route. The other one will say, take that route. The other one will say, this is a shortcut. But if there's one thing we agree upon, is we cannot have a situation where women feel unsafe in their homes. Feel unsafe in their places of worship. They can't go there. Feel unsafe at the post office. No-go area. It really cannot be in a nation that just but 25 years. This is just showing how strong patriarchy still is. And that's how long a distance is for us to bring real parity, because that comes with respect for one another. There was a question about the role of the steering committee. The steering committee on gender-based violence and femicide, it's joined. It's between government and civil society. I link that question with whether we have research that confirms some of the things that we were sharing with you here. Research is going to be continuous, because we are building a nation. Through this steering committee, as and when we've completed all the first stage of its work, we anticipate that the non-governmental organizations will come part of it with research. But it shouldn't be research on justifying why the perpetrators are doing what they're doing, because that is justification. We all should be working towards how do we stop this. So victim support also. Victim support, it's not about action. It's about making people having the confidence, the victims, having the confidence that if I report my case, it shall be followed through, and government and my people would do something about it. I say my people because it's not only government that must be checking. I'm sure you'll get irritated. Every night before you go to sleep, there is a government official coming to knock and check if all is well before you go to sleep. Because things can change by midnight. It mustn't be going by mood swings of so and so and so and so. Socialization of our families as we bring up children, whether at church, whether at any place of worship, the first one being the home is the center. And that's not government. Children must feel, and their mothers, safe and be safe wherever they choose to live. If you choose to be a partner in that relationship, please bring some love so that our children grow up seeing real family. Real family is not about husband and wife. It's about sharing love. If we all bring love from different corners we come from, we will never go wrong. Victims, in fact, is a victim at the time when the incident happens. Post that, they call themselves survivors because they want to move on. They don't want to be victims for life. I think we are here to confirm what President Ramaphosa said. He wants to work with joint government. Not this department is doing this on its own, this one is doing that on its own, that one is doing that on its own. That we on our own are able to sit together, not wait for cluster meetings, but say we are faced with this challenge and we will deal with it this way. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Second row questions, Paul and Marianne. Anybody else? Okay. So, do you want to come closer to the mic? In that order, colleagues.
Good evening, Ministers. This is for the Minister of Justice. Minister, I'm sorry, Paul Bekiaka from Bloomberg. Every year, thousands of protection orders are issued by the courts. Do you have any numbers on how many convictions come through from, are made on people who have disobeyed or broken the conditions of the protection orders at all? Are these conditions or breaking conditions actively prosecuted? And secondly, do you think maybe the conditions around protection orders should be strengthened to be similar to like bail conditions, where the person who's served with a protection order has to report to a police station, say, on a daily basis or on a weekly basis to, at a certain time, to account for where they've been? Thank you very much.
Good evening, it's Marianne Merton from the Daily Maverick. It's a question to both ministers, please, and it's a clarification. I would like to take you back to your comments with regards to the body of the 14-year-old that was found. You described it as raising the grim toll of deaths. Her name was Jenica Mole, so she does have a name. And the EFF in the House brought a motion of condolences on the death of Jenica Mole. As part of the motion, it was pointed out that the police has certain issues, that they're not as efficient as they could possibly be, etc., etc., etc. Your party, the governing ANC, objected. So the record of this House, just shortly after the debate that we had on National Women's Day, will now reflect forever going forward that the governing ANC objected to a motion of condolences on the death of a 14-year-old girl. Your comments on that, and do you think that this is the right way for the governing ANC to handle these matters, just because a motion was brought by the EFF? The ANC, by the way, brought a counter motion with regards to Onyene's death, killing and rape. There were no objections from anybody else in the House. Thank you.
I think just before your question there, Marianne, I understand the sentiments of the question and which it is raised, but unfortunately none of the ministers are in the whippery to understand what informed that objection, and we would take it up based with the ANC. But unfortunately I think the ministries will not be able to answer, but fully understanding the sentiments of the question that has been raised.
Well, I would appreciate if the ministers did answer, particularly as the minister was part and parcel and had actually opened this particular debate. And a call has been made for broad range participation across a whole range of things. Thank you.
Perhaps also just second clarification is that earlier we had said that the tweet in question, there was a tweet that was questionable. That tweet may have been from the presidency. It was actually from GCIS. And like the Minister said, that the tone was rather regrettable. So I just wanted to clarify that part, that it wasn't a tweet from the President, it was a tweet from GCIS.
Thank you very much. Chipo from Independent. I just wanted to thank you for sharing the plans that are being put forward for moving forward in terms of the plans. I'm very excited to see how that will all unfold. As the Honourable Minister has shared, that we're looking for solutions rather than like looking back at the problems that have come up. I date back to almost a year from now, where youth from around South Africa have been writing letters to the presidency, and some of the media houses here have covered the story, where they've been writing with solutions on some of them sharing personal issues of gender-based violence in their homes, being scared of people, some of them actually writing that it's from anonymous, scared that their perpetrators would get the letters and possibly find them. So my concern is that these letters that the youth have written with suggested methods on a declaration that they've read and have seen as a suggestion to educate the community of South Africa on, these letters have not yet been responded. So wondering if then what is the correct measures, or what is it that can get the government's attention in terms of suggestions on how it is that they can change the situation, especially pertaining youth and children that are in the situations and have reached out to the presidency in form of letters and have not yet received a response. And then secondly, I like what the DP shared about the workshops that are being shared with traditional leaders countrywide. I'm concerned about the content of those traditional trainings. If they are educating the traditional leaders on things like gender-based violence and actually changing their mindset, which was also things that these youth, despite their young age, also suggested in their letters as well. So just a response on those two matters.
Just a quick one from me. Hilda Isuk, Netwerk 24. Minister, you mentioned that more than 30 women were killed at the hands of their partners in the month of August alone. Do you know what the figures were for the previous months? How does it compare in comparison with Women's Month? Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Gay Davis. I'm with Miss News. I just wanted to ask the Minister who the political head is of the Steering Committee on GBV and Femicide. I know that it brings government and civil society together, but who's the politician driving it? Thanks.
Can I ask DM to start this time round, and then we'll end with Minister Alamula.
Thank you very much for the questions. Yes, the trainings that we are training traditional leaders on is precisely to deal with issues of changing of attitude, better understanding of what constitutes gender-based violence, what's domestic, what's femicide, what's HIV, all of the social ills that they are likely to come across in their respective leadership responsibilities. It's about assisting them to see the world through the lens of a girl, child, and woman. It is addressing the number of stereotypes where culture is used as an excuse to commit crimes against women and children. So yes, the trainings are intended to do exactly that. It's a 5-day training that looks at different aspects of that particular area. And the last aspect is that we do also distribute measures, which are personal alarms, that actually has shown us the figures that that are going down, but not as much as we would like. So we are introducing a lot of innovation into the fight against gender-based violence. And we are involving young people as we go along, including those with disabilities. So yes, gender-based violence is a matter that requires every South African, young and old, to stand up, and together we can do better. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Let me start with the question as to who leads the GBV femicide committee. This is a committee co-chaired. It is a committee of the president, co-chaired by civil society and presidency, supported by all the departments that are in the justice cluster, including us, women, youth, and people with disabilities. Today in Parliament, we opened a very emotional but very necessary, very painful, but a forward-looking debate. For once, since I became a member of Parliament, I saw no finger pointing. It was about how do we move forward from here, because we must have made a lot of mistakes before. That this matter of women dying in their homes is apolitical. It's neither this party or that party. It's our people dying in their homes, and they're crying out for us to break down the walls of affiliation, save for that which says women are hating, children are dying in places that were supposed to be the safest. And I think that was a very good debate. The other portion of the question, I think colleagues have responded to. Before SONA, State of the Nation address of the President, as he was going into starting the 6th administration in this room, he gave us 2 days. Us, I mean women, youth, and persons with disabilities, an opportunity to organize a quick conversation with the youth, a pre-SONA conversation with the youth. They were so excited. I'm sure half of them are those who write letters and they don't get responses and so on and so on. We started in the afternoon. I think we left this room at around 8 in the evening, but they were all happy, even those with disabilities. In fact, that's when the name was concretized, that people don't want to be disabled, people don't want to be referred to be people living with disability, because they don't live with, they are with disability. They don't get discounts at Checkers, ShopRite, because of their state of being, that we must see them as diversity. For youth, I think you've asked a question. Can your letters be that you send suggestions and they are recorded? I think through our department, through Minister Lamola's department and social development, we can be an extension of your receiving your suggestions, even through GCIS. They must not fall by the wayside, the suggestions you make, because it's about your future. Today, we are talking about young people dying unnecessarily. We haven't even started dealing with the real difficult issues that young adults, particularly female, are dealing with in this country. That they go to school, acquire qualifications, and go back home and sit because there are no jobs. It's a global problem because global economy has not been growing, but how I wish we were sitting here discussing those things on how to grow our economy, grow our country, but we have a national emergency here. That which says, hey, that is another problem. They are just dying. Who kills them? People who know them. People who should be giving them love. The last question I would try to attempt to respond to is, are you counting every month as to how many women and young people are maimed and killed? The answer is, we need more counting of the positives, but even on the negatives, we need to come clean. We need to be reporting we need to start reporting. Have confidence in, if I report my case, I will get a feedback. If I say I'm putting a protection order against Mr. Nkwana, it shouldn't then that it gets eaten by termites and then it's gone. 30 is the number we got. We can make an undertaking through GCIS that we can count back. But what is important is not about counting those whose heads were chopped off, whose breasts were ripped off before they were killed, but it's on focusing on where do we go from here? Because, I said earlier on in my mother tongue that people who check on their bravery and they're not sure of, they look for the softer targets first. Minister. Yes, so softer targets are the ones that live in your house, the one who go to pray in your church, the ones who trust you and sit on your lap and think this is a good malume, only to find that they were so wrong. We counted 30 on August month. We can do more, but we need the support of the civil society, because that which has become a national emergency happens closer home, if not at home. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think the questions directed to me is one. And it's a reflection that we deal with this challenge almost at the end. Through the prosecuting authority, our judicial officers, and also at correctional services. Then the protection order question, I don't have the state now. I think we can do it through CRISPR. We will check it in terms of the number of people who have violated the protection order and what is the conviction rate and what happens and so forth. I think we'll have to check that. I see the Director General of the department is coming in. I don't want to put him on the spot. Yeah, and the whether we will look at the conditions of the protection order, I think we will look at its effectiveness, and if there's any suggestion, we can take it further in terms of whether there's a need for people to report at particular intervals to the police station, and even if it's not the police station where they should report, because if we say police station, the question will be for what are they going to do? Can they also be taken through a social worker or something like that, is going to deal with the educational side and also psychological issues and so forth. I think we'll look into that so that the protection order does not only end with it being issued and it be expected to be respected just at face value. So those measures, I think we will look into them, and as and when we are clear in terms of suggestion, we will be able to communicate. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our press conference for today. We will be sending you, the press statement will be available on both websites shortly. Thank you very much for coming, and we will continue to fight this scourge of gender-based violence together. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, DM.
You can see it.